Beatnik weirdo living in New York City. His huge collections were insane of Easter eggs and paper airplanes, and rare records. He had about 1,060,000. To change America through music was his hope, and to make some money because he was broke, he compiled a triple-decker collection of songs from his records, released as the Smithsonian Anthology of American Folk. On a Monday morning, just about 9 o'clock, the great ship Titanic began to reel and rock. Husbands and wives, little children lost their lives. Wasn't it sad when that great ship went down? Smith's plan began to work as foretold. This weird music began to take hold, and it sparked an interest in these forms of life underground from the norms, and soon millions of folk records were being sold. By the early 60s, Dylan, Joan Baez, Phil Oakes were doing sort of copies of these old folks, and then one strange folk band downtown called the Holy Modal Rounders began to make it more anarchistic with weird voices and drug jokes. Mom's out there, switching in the kitchen, and Dad's in the living room, fussing and a-bitching. I'm out here, kicking the gong for euphoria, euphoria. When your mind starts reeling and walking, inside voices are squealing and squawking, floating around on a belladonna cloud, singing euphoria. That was 1964. Then in 1965, Lou Reed and John Cale in a Ludlow Street dive had a similar musical spin, also on acoustic guitar and violin, with even more New York street drug jive. Hey white boy, what you doing uptown? Hey white boy, you chasing our women around?
Pardon me, sir, nothing could be further from my mind. I'm just waiting for a dear friend of mine.
I'm waiting for the man. And then in 1965, the Holy Modal Rounders met some other beatnik intellectual thugs over on East 10th Street who called themselves the Fugs. They were recorded by Harry Smith playing the punkiest songs yet to exist. Lo-fi noisy shit about poetry, sex, and drugs. I don't have a bedtime, I don't need to come, for I have become an amphetamine bum. If you don't like sleeping and don't want to screw, then you should take lots of amphetamine too. Harry Smith recorded 2 Fug sessions that year, including Tuli Cooperborg's incredible song Nothing. Monday, nothing. Tuesday, nothing. Wednesday and Thursday, nothing. Friday for a change, a little more nothing. Saturday once more, nothing. Fucking nothing, sucking nothing. Flesh and sex, nothing. The world's great books are a great set of nothing. Social anthropology, nothing. Nothing! The Fugs were real poets with real topics to speak out, and through the new underground scene, this crazy music could leak out, beginning the punk idea that anybody could do it without needing much musical ability to it, and this new crazy music was soon labeled Freak Out. In 1966, the Fugs signed to New York indie label ESP, and the same label put out a band called The Gods, spelled with a Z. The Gods accomplished the feat of making even the Fugs music sound sweet, with the least musical folk punk racket in history. Far from the West Coast hippie scene, New York underground music was far from mainstream. It was intellectual but noisy and hectic, and then the Velvet Underground went electric and made folk punk more beautiful and more extreme. Obsolescence in a 125. You're sick and dirty, more dead and alive. I'm waiting for the man. Nothing could stop New York's strange folk punk tide. In 1968 came David Peel and the Lower East Side. They recorded an album in the street, screaming and sloppy. Danny Field signed them to Elektra Records and sold almost 1 million copies with songs like I Like Marijuana and Up Against the Wall, Motherfucker inside. Where is my father? Where is my brother? They're at war. They're at war. You made them join the dirty U.S. Army. You told them all the filthy white lies. You gave them all the bullshit and baloney. Now my brother and my father gonna have to die. And And the Stooges were a freak-out band in Detroit, but folks ignored them until Danny Fields brought them to New York and had John Cale from the Velvets record them. While most acid rock was turning into progressive, the Stooges instead pushed the raw and aggressive, and Iggy Pop sang about degradation and boredom. Well, it's 1960 now, all across the USA. Another year for the end. Another year with nothing to do. Another year for me and you. Another year with nothing to do. In 1970, David Peel's second album came with some amazing songs and some a little bit lame. In most pre-punk histories, David Peel gets forgot because he was a hippie singing lots of songs about pot. But his second album is the first album with the real sound that electric punk rock soon became. We are from the Lower East Side. We don't give a damn if we live or die. We are from the Lower East Side. We don't give a damn.